Hello. Well, here's the guitar in all of its glory. Um, you'll see on their website, and I believe they have an eBay page. It's advertised as a ES-335, but you'll find it's instead, quite obviously, a Trini Lopez ES-335 or a DG-335, the Dave Grohl 335. Now it comes from China, as do most things in life. Here we go. There's the two primary components, the two main halves. And it just comes shipping in this foam clamshell thing. And literally that's it. They got just the foam thing wrapped up in 2 layers of tape. The color good. Send it across China. It shows up here. It's shipped through a company called EMS. Not familiar with them until now. On the website, it says what their current lead times are, or shipping times are, I should say. When I had placed an order, this was in stock when I placed the order, and it said that shipping time was currently around the 25-day mark. So I placed the order. About 3 days later, it ships out. I think I ordered over a week, and that's probably why. I mean, they're halfway across the world, so there is quite the time zone difference. With me being in northern Wisconsin, so in North America. So about 3 days after I placed my order, I get a shipping notification that it has left their door. Then it goes through a few different places amongst China, goes through export, and then after that it's sitting on a boat or in a plane, probably just on a container ship. And then it spends a good couple weeks there. And then sometime around the 20th day, so from the last check-in to the last check-in out of Chinese customs, you'll see it say export customs office or something like that. About 15 days later, it was showing up in U.S. import customs. And then after it was cleared from that, 2 days, it came here 3 days after that, or actually just 2 days after that, 2 or 3 days. So all in all, this had only been gone for, I think when you add up the total tally, it's like 23, 24 days. It's pretty good. Maybe a little less than that even. I'll be sure to put that down in the comments. But this is how it arrives. I ordered the whole kit, so that would be both the body, neck, and bag of assorted hardware. Bag of hardware isn't too impressive. You get a cheap plastic molded ended instrument cable. You get a set of who knows what for strings, and then who knows what for electronics, all the hardware, etc. So it comes with literally everything for this guitar except your labor and whatever you want to make it pretty, i.e. paint, stain, clear coats, whatever you're interested as far as that goes. It has all the hard components. Liquids, those are up to you, of course. But checks out pretty nice. Obviously, I haven't assembled it yet, aside from just doing this. And it's quite the looker, but as is the real deal. So let's take a closer look here. We'll do the body first, because there's a few points I want to bring up with the neck, as of anything, with this price range. So while we're on the topic of price, how much was this critter? Well, this whole kit, it was on sale. When you buy one guitar kit, you get $10 off your total order, whatever it is. So I got this alone, but I could have got this and one other guitar or some whatever ever other products they sell, like guitar straps. For instance, if I got this and a guitar strap, I would get $10 off my order of those two. If I bought this guitar and then and this is what I did. I bought this alone, all by itself. I got $10 off. That was cool. So this came to a grand total of $240-ish after my shipping costs to Wisconsin here in the U.S. So all in all, you're getting one heck of a value meal here. Even though there is a little bit of work ahead of us, you can see there's a lot of tear out, not on the front side, which is great, but a lot of loose grain curls from where they drill these holes. And all the tear out is on the back side, which is great because it means it won't be cosmetic. The downside is we have to find a way to extract those, and it's probably going to involve me getting in there with some tweezers. Otherwise, going around the body, there's not a single flaw aside from this here. If it zooms in, you probably saw it. Okay, pull out, zoom in, there we go. Here's like this one scratch here. But there we go, now it's showing up on camera. It looks like a piece of hair, but that's a scratch. I don't believe it's a crack. Yep, not a crack. And that one was just a hair. We do have pets here. Otherwise, this guy seems to be without flaw. I've seen other videos from other people on this brand of guitar kits, and sometimes the binding will pull out a little bit, or they'll have a crack in like this block here. And mine does not. It's just got a few different seams of different woods that it has, because this is made out of or just say what it is, something kind of like pine, but then you can see the top is a lamination, so there's a few different layers. And then I'm sure it would be the same deal on the back, but you can't see it because of the binding, and that's all right. All the binding is without really any kind of flaws. There is one little dent on the back of this body here. A little faint to see. There you go. Now you can see it. It's just one dark rectangular spot, and that is just wood grain color. But otherwise, pretty flawless. And all the milling on the back and the sides and the top, it's all perfectly smooth. There's no like notchy cuts from like a poor CNC path. This was all done quite well, or at least it was finished well. Whoever went over it had finished the job with like 200 grit sandpaper. At least on the back, you can actually see it. So as I go through and I sand it myself, you'll see all of this grain disappear. You can see it's like a buttload of fingernail scratches that go left to right across this guy. But all that will just sand out and it'll be completely smooth. And then same on the top, and there seems like places where it was gone over with like 120 or 180 and they call it quits, and that's fine. Because you want to go over this with like 400 and then apply your stain, or 400 prime and paint, which is the direction I'm going, is priming and paint. But yeah, aside from the tiny dent on the back, and that don't bother me because this is getting painted, and even if it wasn't, it's on the back. There's this one scratch here that I mentioned earlier that will sand out, and then there's these couple filled burrs that we're going to make disappear. This guy is in tip-top shape. I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. All the routing was done pretty well. And you can see all the wire hole routings, even for the bridge. They nailed all that stuff. I don't know what size posts these are. I will check those out sometime. But one thing I did notice that was kind of weird is the rear posts for the Tune-o-matic bridge. You can see that for some reason they're offset. They're at an angle. They're not perfectly straight, at least not compared to the pickup holes, which are like freaking perfectly straight. Yeah, those are pretty dang straight. But these are slightly off. If I were to do this, or if I perfectly bisect both, you can see there's a thick line where the wood is, and then over here is where my ruler actually gets inside the pickup cavity. There you go. Now you can see what I'm talking about. So it's misaligned that much, like 5, maybe 8 degrees, something like that. You can barely see it from the photos, but like if I were to cover up these two, there we go, you would have a really hard time knowing. Bring those two in, and then that kind of shows up a little further. But that's the body, so now let's bring in the neck. This is the neck in question. You can see it's got it's not all of its binding. All of its inlays, all 22, right, frets. 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Well, fantastic. All 22 frets. They aren't finished, of course. They never are. Give a listen. And that's just my fingernail on the frets, not even the wood. Because here's the wood. Here's the frets. But they're not really far out of shape, because after I made those couple passes with my fingernails, they stopped making noise. But I'd done that with a few frets early, so there will be a little bit of labor polishing these down and making sure they're level. As far as neck straightness goes, we're doing pretty dang good. I mean, cameras never do this part justice, and eyes never take too kindly for it. When I got this car and cracked it open, the neck had quite a bit of counter relief on it. Anti-relief, whatever you like to call it. Meaning that in this position it was frowning at me. It was arched like so. I don't know if that's from their settings or the humidity level that had changed from it being produced to its shipping out to where I live, somewhere in there. So I simply took the included truss rod Allen key to it, loosened it up, I think a quarter of a turn, maybe half a turn, and now it's good and straight, and at least as it sits. Obviously you have to tweak that when you do the full setup. But so looking at this in depth, there's not too many flaws with this guy either. The only disappointing part is like with the headstock here, when they were sanding this edge to make it kind of round, they went in a little heavy at an angle over here, versus the rest of it where it's all really nice. And then same issue on this point. They had sanded down at an angle a little too far. Started making that plane disappear. But we'll sand this perfectly flat and try to bring that back. And then at the same time, they didn't really round over this edge. And this tip is supposed to be here. The factory one does kick out a little bit, so it's kind of like a bird's head, and this would be the beak. But the way they sanded this, it doesn't really come across, especially with this spot right here. It's a little high. I hold it like so. It's straight, 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 straight. Gentle bend up, gentle down, and then it does the little bit of a forehead piece here. So we're going to sand all this back and flat to kind of pronounce this a little better. The nut they put on here, it's some sort of synthetic, of course. Either it's like some sort of black tusk-like material, or it's just flat, straight up plastic. Anywho, it does overhang on both sides by a bunch. You can see both ends there. So it's going to take a little bit of work to make that work. But we're not going that route. I believe the DG-335, at least the ones that are in blue, which is the route I think I'm going to go, they would be white. So we're going to knock that out, change it out for a white tusk, or some sort of other white long-lasting synthetic, and then go from there. But the inlays are quite nice. The fingerboard doesn't really have any blemishes, at least nothing too notable. There's a few places where like something had rubbed against the fingerboard, leaving that kind of shiny spot. It's just where the texture is no longer the same because it has been touched. But it's the same story for where I ran my fingernail. Showing you this video, this is what that caused. But I believe that's just because the fingerboard needs sanding a little bit. It's really, really nice. If one was into clear coating rosewood, you could go right over this, and I think it would be just peachy, but I'm going to sand it down so it's a little bit more smooth. And it's not a feel thing for me, it's just to avoid this. I don't want to be seeing shiny spots like that from wherever my fingernails may end up making little nicks. I just want it to be perfect and uniform like these couple frets are here. That's swell. But otherwise, they nailed the inlays. They nailed the binding. There's a few places like right here where the sanding of the wood didn't quite line up with the sanding of the binding. Let's try to get that in frame a little bit better. There you go. You can see a little bit of an overhang from where the wood is sticking out a little further than the inlay or the binding. And then if I remember right, I think it was a similar situation over here, but maybe inverse. Binding sticks out of here. The only feel issue is that when you ran your hands up and down the sides of the binding, and they did roll it over slightly, which is great. That's about what I'm shooting for. I don't like it heavily rolled like a lot of guys do. I'm not into that. If I had a custom shop guitar of any sort that had that, I don't know how interested I would be in it. But I don't like it sharp and like a chisel. This is a really great starting point. From here on out, I'll just be making it consistent all the way across. As you can see, they sanded really good in some spots, and then other spots it just wasn't quite as far. So I'll make that right. But as you run your fingers up and down, you can kind of feel like steps where the CNC path was, or whatever their tooling technique was. You can feel like it's set for one angle, and then it scooches up, different angle, scooches up, different angle, all the way across this. But that will disappear with just some light sanding. And then there's a similar thing on the back side of the neck. You can kind of see it here. And the color difference is the grain, but you can feel it. Like this pink stripe right here. This is flat, and the rest of it is curved. And as you run your hand around it, you can feel some of that stuff come and go. But here's what I was talking about: running your fingers down it, you can feel each of the steps. They're not as progressive as they should be, and with the neck at this angle, it's very apparent. With my knee as far out of the shot as possible, nothing else. You can see it's sorry, run the finger from the other way. It's pretty progressive, and then right around here it ramps out, and then it continues being pretty consistent. You see that hike? It's really hard to come across on video, but that's about the best way for you to see it. If you ran your hand across it, you know what I'm talking about. So we're going to clean up all of that, and we'll also make it the profile that I like. I'm a modern C-ish fender guy, so we'll get this kind of close, just comparable. It feels really nice, but it's probably just a tad thick up here. It's a little V-like. We'll try flattening it out so the arch is less pronounced. We'll go for a different radius on the backside, and I think that'll really do the trick. And then, yeah, well, after we knock it down to a profile I'm liking, we will go through and sand it completely. We'll get this nice and perfectly flat. We'll get that up on a stone. Same with this side. And this, they had sanded down pretty good. They had topped it off with like 240, something like that. So when you run your hand on it, actually feels like flock. Feels like felt. But the neck is a really neat piece. It's made out of just looking at here, I swear it's only 2 pieces of wood. Might be mistaken, but I think that's what's going on here. You can follow the grain. And it goes all the way down the headstock, which is pretty neat. Most of these will have some sort of scarf joint or something just under the nut. But it is 2 pieces down here at the heel. But they did a very good job picking those out. The seam where they meet is almost indistinguishable. You'd have a hard time telling that apart. Again, presume this is some sort of, it's pretty coarse, whatever it is. It might be some sort of odd type of mahogany, maybe something real light, maybe. But it's pretty porous, as you can see. It's got one heck of a texture on here. All those little dots are areas where there's wood missing. You can see the texture even better where my thumb is. So we're going to sand all that until it's uniform, and it should be almost like glass when we're done. And it'll be just peachy. As far as the fret job goes, they did pretty good. There's only a few issues down towards the bottom here where there's like a little bit of fret lifting. They just didn't stick them down all the way. You just didn't use enough glue under them. It's mostly on the low E side. You can see the ends of these first many aren't down all the way, and that's not too much of a problem on the low E side. Not too many people play the low E all the way up here, but there's plenty of songs where I do. I don't really do that past, say, I really don't go past the 15th fret with that, but I do get up there a ways. On the high E side, I could pick out just a couple. You probably see this one here, which would be the 13th, maybe the 11th, but all the other ones are just stellar. How they were sanded, they do need a little bit of finishing up to do. You can see that they've all been rounded over, but a bunch of them have leftover on them. They got some flange left behind that needs removing. It's not so much this side as it is the thumb side. This one had a lot of offenders. If we can get the camera to focus. And here's one. You can see it's kind of got like a little bit of a shovel head or a foot on the bottom of it. This one did too, but I caught it with a fingernail and it just flinged right off. So that's somewhere on the ground ready to get embedded into a foot. This one you can see it's got real bad wraps down the binding. So we just have to go through, file that away. Actually, usually what's easiest is you get a knife blade underneath there, pry it off, fling it out, and then go in with a file, kind of get these closer to where you want to be, and then run some sand across them, sandpaper. And then from there I think we'll be alright. So with those, just a couple lifting frets, what we're going to do is get around a super glue syringe. After I remove those little flanges or flashings that are sticking out, get a micro super glue syringe, squirt a tad in there, and press down on each of these as it cures. And then hopefully those will never be a problem again. If they will, well, then we'll just go and refret it. How does that sound? Otherwise, I think we'll be in good shape. I just checked out with my radius gauge. We're showing a 12-inch radius from top to bottom. It's just fabulous at every single fret. So far, quite pleased. The end goal is change out all the hardware for some high quality stuff. Usually I don't get too snobby, but I'm hoping to make a very convincing replica of the DG-335 in Pelham blue. That's my goal. And it's one to keep, so I'm not worried about it appearing to be a counterfeit, because that's just not going to matter. I don't really sell my guitars. My whole life I've only sold three, and I've kept the other 12. They don't really go anywhere. So we'll hold on to this. It'll be very nice, I hope. So we'll get all of the best hardware we can. From the tuning pegs to the nut to the truss rod cover. The truss rod cover, it's a very cheap triangle thing. So the nice thing is they didn't pre-drill any of these holes. Not for that. Not for the tuners. Not for the pickups. Not for the strap buttons. But they do include every single one of those pieces of hardware. So all we have to do is just pre-drill each of those and thread them in. Yeah, next step for me will be working out this neck carve and then getting all the sanding done on the body. After that, we'll tidy up these frets, glue it together. I'll need to buy this thing a case so I can keep it somewhere safe. Glue these together, clean out these holes, paint it up, wire it up, build the hardware, string it, tune it. Should kick butt after that. So, stay in touch. How do we do that?